Hi there, I'm here to review a couple of very cool products for you today. There are two Sony Ericsson products. One is the Sony Ericsson Xperia Ray over here, and the Sony Ericsson Xperia Arc over here. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you very much to Sony Ericsson for supplying me with these two awesome phones. They also supplied me with an Xperia Play, but I'm not going to be reviewing that one today. If you wanted to know more about the Play, or if you just wanted to waste some time, there's some links down below to a little web series that I do every now and again called Me and My Play. It's a little bit of fun. Spec-wise, they're very similar. They're both running the same Snapdragon processor at 1 GHz. It's only a single core, but in my opinion, that's all you really need at this stage of phone technology. So they're both single core 1 GHz Snapdragon processors. They've both got an Adreno 205 GPU for the graphics, which means that still graphics are going to be very high spec as well. Essentially, software wise, they're both exactly the same. They've both got 8 megapixel cameras. They both use Sony Ericsson's mobile Bravia engine for the screens, which makes the screen quality absolutely awesome. It's not so much about the screen resolution; it's more to do with the quality of the picture and the quality of the colours that come through. There's also going to be a link down below to a video comparison that I found on the internet, which compares the Arc S with the Samsung Galaxy 2S. And you can just see from that you get a much more even display on the Sony Ericsson that you do compared to the Super AMOLED HD screen that they've got on the Galaxy S2. My personal opinion is that AMOLED, yes, it's fantastic technology. It does enable you to get the actual phones themselves really paper thin almost. It's an awesome technology. However, I do still prefer the color balance and the performance of backlit LCD screens, which is what we're using today on Sony Ericsson phones. So we've talked a little bit about the tech spec of these being extremely similar. However, there are very quite big fundamental physical differences between these two phones. First thing I'll pick up on is on the Arc over here. You have 3 physical buttons at the bottom. You've got your home key, your back key, and your options key. Over on the Ray, you only have 1 physical button, which is the home key, and then you have 2 capacitive buttons, which are the back key and the options key. I mean, it's all down to personal preference. If you get a chance to play around with one of these phones, please do have a play around with them, see how you would use them in everyday life. I personally prefer the actual physical buttons at the bottom of the Arc, as opposed to the capacitive ones on the Ray. That's just one difference there. Another one is the fact that on the top here of the Arc, you have a HDMI output there, which means you can just directly link this to any HD TV and view all your content, as well as your user interface from the phone on your HD TV, which I think is pretty darn cool. The Ray, however, doesn't actually have that physical port at the top there, which means that you can't just plug it directly into a HD TV. However, you can link it up to a DLNA enabled TV over a Wi-Fi network. Because it is DLNA certified. I think the Arc is as well, pretty sure it is, but it's just handy to have that actual physical port at the top there as well. Another major difference, which is a little bit of a surprise, the Arc, the flagship phone, the most expensive phone in the range, doesn't have a front-facing camera. However, the Ray has a front-facing camera, so that's a bit of a turn up there. So that's absolutely perfect for stuff like Skype, video calling, Google video chat, stuff like that. Absolutely brilliant on there, but not really possible on that one. But one major difference, which to me is kind of a game changer, is the fact that this one, the Arc, has a dedicated camera button at the side, which means that you just unlock your phone, press down the camera key, and then it activates the camera application. There we go. You can see my laundry in the background. That's nice for you, isn't it? But it also just means that when you're actually using the phone, you just get a better sort of kind of camera experience of the fact that you've actually got the physical button at the top there, which means you can just take pictures as you would using a normal digital camera. You do not have that facility on the Ray. You can, however, stick your camera application on the home screen. Just go into the menu, camera application just there, press and hold, onto the home screen anywhere you can fit it, and that way once you lock your phone, if you unlock it, open up the camera application, you know, it's near enough the same amount of time that it takes. However, I just prefer having that camera button at the side there. Another main issue, or well, another main difference between the two cameras, although they are both HD video cameras, they're both 8 megapixel cameras, you can actually alter the number of megapixels that you capture. I prefer to keep them both on 6 megapixels because then it shoots in 16:9 aspect ratio as opposed to 4:3. It just fills up the screen a lot nicer. Yeah, basically the main difference that I find is that on the, it's actually a bit of a disappointment really on the Ray. On the Arc, you actually have a camera flash, automatic camera flash. On the Ray, you only have a photo light, which you can switch on or switch off, which, you know, to some people isn't going to be a major thing. To me personally, I prefer having better camera functionality on the phone. So yes, you can get a flash type effect by switching the camera, the photo light on. However, it does mean that you're using those precious seconds which you could actually be taking the picture to actually fiddle around with the settings on your camera. So just to forewarn people, it is not a flash, it is a photo light. One other thing that I kind of found as a big difference between the two, it wasn't something that I noticed straight away, but it was only when I started listening to music on both of them. Not the actual quality of the music that's coming out, because both of them have exactly the same spec in the music player. However, the placing of the headphone socket, this is going to sound really, really geeky, right? Okay, on here, it's in the top corner on the side. On here, it's on the actual top side of the phone. Now, to most people, that's not going to make a massive amount of difference. However, if you think about it, let's say you have headphones plugged in. You have a straight headphone socket like that. You've got this beautiful piece of equipment in your pocket. It's still quite a, I mean, it's quite a wide phone because of the size of the screen. However, you've got that slim profile. It's generally quite nice in your pocket. However, once you stick that on there, it then creates an extra width on the phone, which is taking up room in your pocket. It's going to make it harder to get the phone in and out of your pocket as well. But you've gone from using a phone which is, you know, that wide to a phone which is effectively that wide now. And that's never pleasant to be taking in and out of your pocket. So let's say, for example, if you're checking notifications or emails or anything like that, it's not very nice to have that in there and be taking it in and out of your pocket because it can sort of damage the headphone socket on there, it can damage the headphone socket on the phone, and it's just not a pleasant experience. However, with something like the Ray, plug it in the top, you still got that really nice slim profile in your pocket. It's not obstructing anything. It's not going to be wiggling about dangerously. It's not going to be yanking about if you're taking your phone in and out of your pocket. It's just a small thing that I picked up on, but I think it's an important thing that people need to consider when they're choosing a phone. So we've talked about how similar they are in specification, how different they are in terms of physicality. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the quadrant benchmark test, which is something that a lot of people use to actually determine as to whether a phone is good or not. Now, I know that both of these phones are absolutely awesome. It's just down to personal preference which one you go for. If you just run the full benchmark, I'll run them side by side so you can see exactly what's going on. Okay, so I now have the results of the benchmark test. As you can see, both of them have finished top of their class in terms of the bar chart there. The Arc has just beaten the Ray by only a matter of a few points. The Ray scored 1,373, whereas the Arc scored 1,391. So it's really not a lot in it in terms of technical prowess, as it were. However, it is worth noting that both of them have beaten the Moto Droid X. Both of them have beaten the Nexus 1 running on 2.2, and both of them have beaten the Galaxy S, the original Galaxy S. So yeah, I think that's something to shout about, to be honest. The massive news for both of these Xperia handsets, and in fact the other Xperia handsets for the 2011 range, such as the Mini Pro, the Neo, also the Mini, and the new Pro that has come out as well, which is very similar to the Neo and to the Arc, but it's got a slide-out QWERTY keyboard on it. Big thing to note is that for all the 2011 Xperia handsets, Ice Cream Sandwich is coming to them, I believe, early next year. So that's a big plus. In terms of everyday use, I prefer the Arc purely because of the size of the screen. I watch a lot of YouTube videos. I browse the internet on my phone a lot. I also do a lot of typing in terms of emails and text messages on here. I just prefer using a bigger screen. It's not to say that I prefer having a bigger phone in my pocket. I just prefer using a bigger screen on here. The one main difficulty that I had with the Ray is the fact that I have big, fat, chubby man hands, and so using a QWERTY keyboard on a smaller screen in the portrait style there, I mean, if I bring up a QWERTY keyboard on here, you can see the difference in size and the difference in the buttons as well. So yeah, I'd definitely go for the Arc in usability over the Ray. However, pricing, well, the Ray, for the company that I work for, because I work for a mobile retail company, for the company that I work for, this, in its price range, that is the best phone you can get. It's £20.50 per month. I mean, it's all down to how many minutes text you need, how much data you need on your plan and everything, but for £20.50 a month, you're getting an HD video camera, an 8 megapixel camera, the mobile Bravia engine, a 1 gigahertz processor, a front-facing camera. I mean, it is, you know, deal of the century, that one, at £20.50 a month. I know you can get it cheaper elsewhere, but the fact is the price point of the Ray, I think that's the best handset you can get in that price range. The Arc, it is free from my company. It's free from £31 per month. It's the same price as the Galaxy S2, because the Galaxy S2 has recently just, you know, come right down in price. As a personal preference, I'd still go for this over the Galaxy S2. I know the S2 has a dual-core processor, but in my opinion, you don't need a dual-core processor in what phones can do at the moment. Dual-core processors should be left for tablets and computers, and they're not really needed on phones at the moment anyway. One reason is that Gingerbread doesn't support dual-core processors, so yeah, it's kind of a bit of a silly update, although it is going to make sure that future phones are kind of future-proofed, just in case the Android software does start to support dual-core processors. So hopefully phones like the Arc and the Ray, hopefully they're not going to be left behind. So I believe we've gone over, you know, firstly thanking Sony Ericsson for the two phones. I think we've gone over the tech spec of each of them very briefly, the physical differences between them very briefly, the benchmark tests where they both came out top of their class, really high scores, also beating previous, you know, top range handsets, everyday use and everything like that, and the pricing of them both as well. Basically, marks out of 10, I would give the Arc a 9 out of 10. The only reason it's missing that 1 point is basically placing of the headphone socket, and also the fact that there's no front-facing camera. I do like to Skype because my parents live very far away, so I'd like the ability to Skype on my phone as opposed to having to use my laptop. Yes, I'd give the Arc a 9 out of 10. The Ray, I would give an 8.5 out of 10. The only reason it's losing to the Arc is because it's missing that camera button at the side there. But yeah, I just prefer the Arc. So I mean, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and also if you haven't seen it yet, I've done a couple of music videos to do with Sony Ericsson products. Yeah, it's probably best that you view them with a view them with an open mind. I did them just as a little bit of fun, but yeah. Well, hopefully I will see you soon with some reviews for some new products, and yeah, I'll see you next time.